So I felt like our patient community needed a voice. And so I sat down to write a letter, put it out on social media, and within 36 hours, our website received 3,500 hits. I'm Dr. Joel Yeager, board-certified family physician, and my wife, Dr. Luanne Yeager, is also a board-certified family physician together with me. Early on, none of us knew what COVID-19 was going to do. So, the lockdown and the national emergency and all seemed to be appropriate. But several weeks into that, number one, my wife and I were not seeing anything remotely close to coronavirus in our office. We actually had a very, very, very bad winter back in January, February, and into early March. And then our sickness started to significantly wane off. So we had already experienced something. It would be very difficult to prove that it was coronavirus, but our local community had already experienced its own surge in January and February, and people were starting to get better. So now all of a sudden we have the country on lockdown, and we're not seeing that in our local community. In fact, we weren't even seeing it in our local hospitals. So a couple of weeks into this, my wife and I are beginning to ask just a simple common sense question: what is really going on with this? And as we started to just interact with our patients and started to read the actual data, it's like, this isn't really what we thought it was going to be. No, we're not ignoring coronavirus. It's certainly something to be aware of and can be fatal in, some people. But as the data is coming in and you honestly look at the data, it's not that much different than a serious annual case of the flu. So I just felt, and particularly as our governor started to just initiate such severe restrictions, particularly when essential businesses were allowed to remain open and non-essential businesses were closed. So I felt like our patient community needed a voice. And so I sat down to write a letter, which I thought was going to be a couple of pages, and I realized I was actually writing a scientific document because I was simply looking at what do the medical journals have to say, not what does the lay media have to say, but what does the medical journals actually say. So that's why my letter is as documented as it is, and it turned out to be 10 pages, and I uploaded it to our website on a Saturday night and put it out on social media, and within 36 hours, our website received 3,500 hits, I believe, and the letter almost went viral on social media and was shared in multiple venues, made its way to the Pennsylvania Medical Society. One of the leadership there called it the best science-based explanation to push back on Harrisburg's restrictions that he had seen to date. And it just, finally, the patient community felt like they had a voice, and they felt like they were hearing some information that was actually true and actually freeing to them. And it I would say, it gave them hope that where they didn't feel like they had much hope. My letter found its way to our local state representative, who asked if he could distribute it throughout the House of Representatives in Harrisburg, our capital, and I said, absolutely. He, as well as some other local leaders, have led for, or I should say have advocated for, reopening our particular county against the governor's mandate. And our county commissioners actually voted last Friday to reopen our county. So locally, restrictions are starting to ease. I think the community is just flat out tired of all these restrictions. And I would like to think that my letter had something to do with that. And then with the efforts of our Representative Russ Diamond, who really championed on behalf of the community, I think things are starting to ease. I had a phone conversation with a physician colleague, a hospitalist in a local large hospital, a couple of weeks ago. He was calling me about my letter to the governor, and he said that he believes that this is probably the worst man-made pandemic since World War II. Or a disaster, I should say, the worst man-made disaster since World War II. When I heard him say that, it really resonated. So I'm speaking out because I think it's time to, number one, get facts out there, get people educated, and second of all, just to give a voice to patients. We are presently not requiring masks here in our office unless a person has a symptom, and I can't tell you how relieved people are to come in here. And almost every single patient encounter we have in the office right now always, of course, centers around coronavirus. And so our visits are taking probably twice as long because we end up hearing people's frustrations and trying to give them good information. But yeah, it's to give a voice to patients, and it's also to educate the public.